Diddy was running the East Coast rap game back in the 90s with Bad Boy Records, but he almost threw it all away when he allegedly shot 3 people at a nightclub. Diddy was with Jennifer Lopez at the time, and in 1999, he took her to Club New York with his bodyguard Wolf and a rapper from Bad Boy Records named Shyne. According to rumors, Jennifer Lopez snuck Diddy's gun into the club for him, and she passed it back to him after they got through security. It's not clear how everything went down, but at some point, Diddy got into a fight with some people in the club, and shots started going off. 3 people got hit, and that's when Diddy, Jennifer Lopez, and Wolf all hopped in their whip and took off. The police chased them down and found a stolen gun in the car, and Diddy allegedly offered the driver $50K to say that the gun was his. Diddy, Wolf, and Shyne all went to trial over the situation, but Shyne was the only one who got convicted. Shyne got hit with a 10-year sentence, but he kept dropping music while he was locked up, and when he came back home in 2009, the cops deported him back to his home country of Belize, and Shyne completely switched lanes. Shyne's dad was the prime minister of Belize, and when Shyne went back home, he got into politics too and ended up getting elected to the Belize House of Representatives back in 2020. In 2024, Shyne did an interview with the media in Belize and said that everyone knew he was just the fall guy in the shooting. He didn't say that Diddy was the one who pulled the trigger, but does point out the witness who came forward also said he was innocent. Diddy skated on the case back then and was found not guilty, but one of the people who got shot at the club says Diddy is definitely the one who pulled the trigger. Natanya Rubin says she still has pieces of the bullet stuck in her face, and she's willing to let a doctor take part of it out to prove that Diddy was a shooter. According to Natanya, everyone saw Diddy fire the shots, but he paid off all the witnesses to cover it up. The surgeon who took the bullet fragments out of Natanya's face also admitted that she was screaming about Diddy being the one who shot her while she was in the operating room.
Everybody knew he did it, but he paid off the club bouncer named Sharice and all these other people and the club owners with their video to hide the video. That's his MO. I told everybody that. Even the surgeon who did my surgery to take out part of the bullet fragments that was aspirating into my lungs and try to remove as many bullet fragments as possible testified in the criminal trial that while they were putting me under, I was screaming, "Puffy, pew pew me in the face."
Ever since then, Natanya claims that Diddy has been harassing her in order to keep her quiet and even popped her tires on purpose 7 times. Natanya Rubin sued Diddy over the situation and settled it out of court, and that's not the only case he beat in 1999. A couple months before the shooting at the nightclub, Diddy allegedly went to Nas's manager, Steve Stoute, and put hands on him because of a music video. Diddy and Nas had linked up for the track Hate Me Now, but Diddy didn't like the video. There was a scene where Diddy was dressed up like Jesus and got nailed to a cross. At first, Diddy was cool with it, but changed his mind after the video was already finished and wanted to edit out that scene. Steve Stoute said no, because he paid $14,000 to shoot the scene and claimed that it was Diddy's idea in the first place. So Diddy brought 2 homies with him to press Steve Stoute. Diddy got hit with an assault charge over the situation, but he got the charges dropped to harassment and paid Steve Stoute $500K. Diddy beat another assault case in 2005 for allegedly attacking a TV host, and in 2007, he allegedly punched a dude outside of a nightclub and had to settle out of court again. Then in 2015, Diddy caught a case for assault with a deadly weapon after he allegedly swung a kettlebell at his son's football coach. Diddy's son Justin was playing for UCLA, and one of the coaches yelled at him during practice. So Diddy allegedly went to the coach's office and tried to hit him with a kettlebell. Diddy was facing some real time in prison, but the charges got dropped again because there wasn't enough evidence. Diddy wasn't just allegedly putting hands on people though. He even beat a case for allegedly blowing up someone's car. In 2023, Diddy's ex Cassie Ventura opened a lawsuit against him for rape, sex trafficking, and abuse. And according to the lawsuit, Diddy even had Kid Cudi's car blown up because he was dating Cassie at the time. Kid Cudi also confirmed to the media that his car did blow up around that time, although he didn't say who was responsible. Diddy beat the case by paying Cassie Ventura out of court, even though CNN dropped a video where Diddy got caught beating her up in a hotel back in 2016. Diddy beat a lot of charges, but there's a good chance he'll still end up in prison for Tupac's murder. After Pac got killed in Vegas, rumors were flying from the jump that Diddy had something to do with it. The case was cold for a long time, but then the cops officially charged a dude from the Southside Compton Crips named Keefe D. And according to Keefe D, Diddy put a $1 million bag on Tupac's head. Keefe D was going around doing interviews, admitting that he was involved in the Tupac murder. Keefe D claims he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but knows who did, and was in the room multiple times when Diddy met with the Crips about killing Tupac. But it eventually caught up to him, because Keefe D was arrested in connection to Tupac's murder in 2023. But even if Diddy beats that case, he's still facing some crazy charges, and might have even been wrapped up with the Sinaloa cartel. A lot of people have accused Diddy of sex trafficking women and men too, and in March 2024, the feds raided 3 of his properties to get evidence. Then the case took a wild turn when a dude from the Sinaloa cartel named Alfredo Gonzalez sued Diddy for ruining his drug business. According to Gonzalez, Diddy wanted the Sinaloa cartel to help him with sex trafficking. Gonzalez turned Diddy down, and that's when Diddy allegedly used his clout in the streets to block the Sinaloa cartel from running drugs into New York. Gonzalez wanted to get over $600K because Diddy stopped him from making money, but the judge threw the whole thing out because you can't sue someone for messing up your illegal business. Lil Boosie is a legend in the South, but he almost got hit with a death sentence over a wild murder case back in the day. In 2010, Boosie was booked on a murder charge for allegedly killing a dude named Terry Boyd in Baton Rouge. Terry Boyd was Boosie's baby mama's brother. According to rumors, Terry had been dissing Boosie while he was in jail, so when Terry got out, Boosie put a hit out on him. The cops didn't think Boosie was the one who pulled the trigger though. According to them, Boosie paid a teenager named Marlo Mike and some other shooters to help him take over the city, and they killed 6 people after Boosie dropped a bag on their heads. Terry Boyd was the only body that Boosie got charged for, but the cops said he was involved with getting another dude named Marcus Gangsta Thomas killed too. Gangsta was driving his truck when a car full of shooters pulled up and killed him. When the cops interrogated Marlo Mike about the situation, Mike told him that Boosie wanted Gangsta dead because Gangsta had snatched Boosie's chain. The killing didn't stop there though. Boosie was also beefing with a rapper named Nusi. Boosie was apparently pressed because Nusi was calling himself Nusi Badass, and Nusi made the beef official when he dropped a whole diss track about Boosie. Rumors said that Nusi actually tried to get Boosie killed, and on the track Lime Life, Boosie raps, "Nigga tried to kill me. After that, a nigga stole my name." Then in February 2010, Nusi was shot and killed. Marlo Mike allegedly took out Nusi, but then the situation got even more complicated because Marlo Mike allegedly killed Boosie's closest homie, Bleak, too. There's rumors that Bleak was actually rocking with Boosie's ops though, and that's why some people think Boosie had him killed. After Boosie got hit with the murder charge for Terry Boyd, all kinds of evidence started coming out. A picture started going around where Marlo Mike was showing off a tattoo he had that said, "Yo Boosie, who's next?" Marlo Mike had been telling the cops that Boosie paid him $2,800 to kill Terry Boyd. His statement is what got Boosie wrapped up in the case, and Boosie was facing the death penalty if he got convicted. While he was locked up at Angola, Boosie got hit with even more charges for trying to sneak codeine into the jail. After he got caught a second time, Boosie got hit with more felony charges that could have added 5 more years to his sentence. But when the trial started, Marlo Mike testified that his original statement was all cap and said that the cops pressured him and threatened his mom and stepdad. The prosecutors didn't really have any evidence on Boosie without Marlo Mike's testimony, and the jury only had to deliberate for 30 minutes before they decided that Boosie wasn't guilty. Cassidy was one of the hottest rappers in Philly and had a lot of momentum in the industry, but he still had heavy ties to the streets and got booked for shooting at the ops with another Philly rapper named AR Ab. Back in April 2005, Cassidy allegedly got into an argument with a dude named Desmond Hawkins. Hawkins and Cassidy were apparently tight, and Hawkins came to Cassidy's crib after the argument to squash the issue. It's not clear exactly how it all went down, but Cassidy, AR Ab, and 2 other dudes allegedly used an AK-47 and some other guns and shot up a van that Hawkins and his homies were in. They dumped over 30 shots into the whip, and Hawkins was killed during the shooting. AR Ab and Cassidy both got booked for the murder. Cassidy was facing first-degree murder, attempted murder, and weapon charges too. The situation was looking tough to beat, but then Cassidy got a huge break when the prosecution's main witness withdrew their confession. According to AR Ab, the cops wanted to take him and Cassidy down, so they wrote up a statement before they even talked to the witness and made him sign it. AR Ab skated on the case, but Cassidy went down for involuntary manslaughter, aggravated assault, and possession of an instrument of crime. The judge handed down a sentence for 11 to 23 months in prison, but Cassidy was credited for the 7 months he had already been locked up fighting the case and got out in March 2006. Even though he didn't totally beat the case, Cassidy still got lucky when the murder charge got knocked down to involuntary manslaughter, because if the situation went another way, he'd still be in prison right now without the possibility of parole. AR Ab beat that case, but he still ended up in prison. AR Ab started going viral for self-snitching like crazy, and in one video, he said the op shot him because
I kidnapped niggas, I robbed niggas, I killed niggas, I got a lot of shit I did.
His own homie started working with the cops too though, and in 2021, AR Ab got hit with 45 years for running a huge drug ring in Philly. Gucci Mane used to be one of the wildest dudes in the industry, and back in 2005, he beat a murder case after he allegedly killed a dude over rap beef. It all allegedly started when Gucci and Jeezy linked up for the track So Icy. It's not clear what went down behind the scenes, but rumors say that both of them wanted the track for their own album, and that's what sparked the beef. A week after So Icy came out, Jeezy dropped the track Stay Strapped and said, I want that motherfucking bullshit ass icy chain, cause you need to take that money shit off. You embarrassing us, nigga. Matter of fact, real talk, nigga. I got a bounty on that shit, nigga. 10 stacks. And so if you come to your town, you just happen to snatch that motherfucker off his neck or knock that motherfucker off his neck, when I come to your town, shoot it to me. I'ma shoot you the 10 stacks, man. Jeezy and Gucci were sending shots back and forth. And then Jeezy's homie Pookie Loc and some other dudes broke into Gucci's crib and put hands on him. According to rumors, they paid a stripper to lure Gucci back to her home, which is when Pookie Loc and the others burst into the house and tried to shoot him. It's not clear how it all went down, but Gucci upped his strap and allegedly killed Pookie Loc. Then he dumped his body outside of a school. Gucci turned himself in on the murder case and was facing life in prison. He told the cops that he shot at the dudes who broke in, but they didn't have enough evidence to prove it was murder and not self-defense, so the whole thing ended up getting dropped. Rumors say that Jeezy is the one who sent Pookie Loc and the other dudes at Gucci. And after Gucci beat the murder case, he dissed Jeezy on the track Truth and rapped, "I think the nigga just mad cause I fucked his ex, and I'm a big dog. He got the little boy complex. Go dig your partner up, nigga, but he can't say shit. And if you're looking for the kid, I'll be in zone 6. Jeezy said he didn't send anyone at Gucci though. And on the track Forgive Me, he raps, "Rest in peace to Pookie Loc. Blame it on me, never snitching. Lord knows I ain't sending a homie on no dummy mission." Gucci skated on the murder case, but he ended up spending a lot of time in jail anyway. A couple of months after Pookie Loc died, Gucci beat up a club promoter with a pool stick and got hit with a 6-month charge. Then in 2008 and 2009, Gucci went back to jail 2 more times for violating probation. Getting locked up didn't slow him down though, and in 2010, he punched a dude right in front of a cop and got pepper sprayed. He beat the charges for that case, but in 2011, he went back to jail for kicking a woman out of his Hummer while he was driving down the road. Gucci got hit with 2 more cases for attacking fans and hitting one of them on the head with a bottle. And in 2013, he caught a charge that almost sent him away for 2 decades. He was booked on 2 different gun cases and was facing 20 years, but Gucci pleaded guilty and only served a few years. He came home in 2016 and turned everything around, and now he's one of the healthiest and most chill dudes in the rap game. Although, deep down, he's still the same Gucci Mane. In 2020, when he linked up with Young Jeezy to do a versus battle, Gucci dissed Pookie Loc on stage in front of the entire world. After that, they agreed to squash the beef and haven't dissed each other since. New rap fans probably think Snoop Dogg is one of the most chill dudes in the game. He's worked with the Olympics, hangs out with Martha Stewart, and even started his own competitive gaming league. But back in the day, Snoop was really in the trenches and almost went down for a murder charge. Snoop came up in Long Beach repping the Rollin' 20 Crips and got booked for cocaine while he was still in high school. He spent a few years going in and out of jail, and that's when he decided to switch everything up and start going hard with music. Snoop linked up with Dr. Dre and helped him make The Chronic, which turned Snoop into one of the biggest new rappers in the game overnight. After The Chronic dropped, Dr. Dre was helping Snoop work on his first album, but before they could finish it, Snoop got wrapped up in a wild case. In August 1993, Snoop was at a gas station when a dude named Philip Walder Merriam, aka Lil Smooth, pressed him and allegedly put a gun to his head. Snoop left, but that wasn't where it ended. One day, Snoop and his homies were chilling outside when Lil Smooth and his crew rolled up on them and started pressing Snoop again. Lil Smooth left, and that's when Snoop and his homies jumped in Snoop's Jeep and tracked him down. They found Lil Smooth and his homies at a park. Snoop pulled right up to them, and Snoop's bodyguard, McKinley Lee, aka Malik, stood up in the Jeep and just stared Lil Smooth down. Lil Smooth yelled, "Oh, what? I'm a punk now?" And that's when Malik upped his strap and aimed it at Lil Smooth. Lil Smooth reached down to grab the pistol he had in his waistband, but before he could even pull it out, Malik shot him in the head and killed him. Snoop and Malik drove off, but then a couple days later, Snoop turned himself in for a murder charge. By that point, Snoop was already a major star and hired Johnny Cochran to defend him, the same lawyer who represented O.J. Simpson. Snoop and Malik both beat the case, but the whole situation changed Snoop forever. After he beat a murder charge, Snoop realized he didn't want to keep rapping about the streets and violence. He was signed to Death Row back then, and Suge Knight and everyone else wanted Snoop to lean into the whole gangsta image. But Snoop said, "I just went through a murder case and I couldn't. My heart and my spirit wasn't in the place to write, 'Nigga, I'll kill you, I'll fuck you up.'" In 1998, Snoop left Death Row Records and signed to Master P's No Limit Records, while Suge Knight was locked up for violating his probation the night Tupac was killed. Snoop left the streets behind, but this next rapper is still making crazy headlines. Lil Durk made it out of the trenches of Chicago and became a superstar in the rap game, but he almost lost everything after he got wrapped up in an attempted murder case with King Von. In 2019, Durk and Von were in Atlanta and allegedly robbed a dude named Alexander Weatherspoon. It's not clear how it all went down, but Alexander Weatherspoon ended up getting shot in the leg. According to the cops, Durk was the one who pulled the trigger and let off 18 rounds at Weatherspoon. Von and Durk allegedly took $30K from Weatherspoon and took off in Durk's whip, and it didn't take long before the cops had warrants out for both of them. When the news broke that Durk was facing an attempted murder charge, he flew straight back to Atlanta and turned himself in. But before he actually went to the cops, Durk dropped the track "Turn Myself In" and rapped, "Look up at the judge, can't look. State making up lies for sure. I'm an innocent man for sure. It is what it is for sure. Nobody gon' ride. Had a warrant, so I can't hide. India gon' stay by my side. I did a song with Chance tonight. He giving me positive vibes to better my image for life. I turn myself in tonight, head down with these cuffs on, just read me my rights." The cops knew that Durk and Von both repped the Black Disciples, so the charges were even worse because the shooting was gang related. They both had records too, so the case was looking bad for both of them. The prosecutors didn't even want Durk to be let out on bond, but the judge granted it anyway because Durk turned himself in and wasn't trying to do the race. King Von got out on bond too, but then he was killed before the case went to trial. Durk was free, but still had the charges hanging over his head. But in 2022, he finally caught a break and the case got dropped because there wasn't enough evidence that Durk actually pulled the trigger. Durk probably would have beat the case no matter what, but the district attorney in Atlanta said that King Von would still be facing charges over the shooting if he didn't get killed. Rumors say that after Von died, Durk's lawyers put all the blame on Von to get Durk off, but there's no evidence to back it up. And that wasn't the only case Durk beat with one of his homies. Back in 2013, the cops spotted Durk on South Green Street in Chicago and walked up to him. Durk allegedly had a gun on him, so he tossed it into his whip, but the cops saw it all happen and booked Durk for the strap. Durk had a lot of momentum in the rap game and could have pinned the gun on someone else to beat the case, but he kept it solid and didn't say anything to the cops. They didn't have any real evidence on him, and a bunch of people signed statements that said the gun wasn't Durk's. The judge still held Durk on a $100K bond because he already had gun charges on his record, but eventually the whole case got thrown out. 10 years after it all went down, DJ Academics posted paperwork that proved Durk didn't work with the cops, and Durk reposted it and said, "Just shut the fuck up and you good." King Von would still be facing a lot of charges if he didn't get killed, but the dude who pulled the trigger on Von beat his murder case and walked away totally free. Von was beefing with NBA Youngboy, and when he spotted Youngboy's homie Quando Rondo outside a club in Atlanta, Von walked up and started throwing hands. Quando's homies were ready for the smoke though, and Lil Tim upped his strap and killed Von. Lil Tim got hit up too, but Quando rushed him to the hospital and he made it out of the situation alive. Lil Tim got hit with a felony murder case for killing Von, but in 2023, the news broke that the charges were dropped because Von was the one who started the fight. After he beat the case, Lil Tim dropped the track "Left a Stain" and rapped, "Just got collect call from New Pluto yesterday. He say he on the way. We steady catching plays. I told him about my good news. I'm about to beat this case. I really came from the bottom. I'm feeling like I'm Drake." Jay-Z leveled up like crazy and became a billionaire, but he came up in the trenches of New York and shot his own brother when he was 12 years old. It all started when Jay's uncle Ray got stabbed to death when Jay was 10. Ray getting killed made Jay's dad start using heroin, and that's what really split the family up. By the time Jay was 12, his older brother was addicted to crack, and Jay's homie Jazz gave him a gun because he knew that Jay had to protect himself. Jazz had no idea that Jay was going to use the gun on his own brother though. Jay's brother allegedly stole a ring from him, and Jay pressed him about it. He told his brother to step outside the crib, and that's when Jay upped the strap and shot him in the shoulder. And on the track, "You Must Love Me," Jay rapped, "As we grew, fussing and fighting continued. As I plundered through your stuff and snuck your clothes to school. Got intense, real intense as we got older. Never believed it would lead to me popping one in your shoulder." Luckily, Jay didn't have to beat a case because his brother decided not to press charges. But after Jay started popping off in the rap game, he caught a charge for stabbing one of his own homies. By 1999, Jay was already one of the biggest rappers in the game and was getting ready to drop his album, Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter. But a month before it dropped, someone leaked the whole project and Jay was heated about the situation. He heard that a dude named Lance Rivera was the one who leaked it, and when Jay spotted at a record release party, he handled the situation himself. Came up moving weight in the streets just like Jay, and they knew each other before Jay ever started dropping music. According to Jay's book, he got into an argument with at the party, but ended up walking away and going to the bar to get a drink. But then Jay changed his mind and the situation got serious. He walked back up to and stabbed him with a 5-inch knife, but luckily survived. Jay turned himself in the next day and pleaded not guilty, but then he changed it to a guilty plea and got hit with 3 years of probation. He was originally facing 10 years in prison, but some people say that Jay wasn't even the one who stabbed Jay admitted that he stabbed and on the track "I Did It My Way," he rapped, "When I seen how big they made my fight scene at the club, let me explain exactly how this shit was. This nigga, yo, I scratched him. He went home without an aspirin, but it's cool cause we back friends. It happened and it's over. But when Nas and Jay were beefing, Nas dropped Ether and raps, and your man stabbed and made you take the blame. Then in 2023, did an interview with DJ Vlad and said that Jay wasn't the guy who stabbed him that night.
Jay-Z was not the guy who actually stabbed me that night.
It's not clear how everything actually went down, but Jay allegedly beat another stabbing case back in 1989. Jay was tight with a dude named Calvin Klein Bacote back in the day, and on the track Allure, he rapped, "I never felt more alive, riding in Klein's Green 5. And according to Klein, Jay and him got into a fight at a party and ended up getting charged for attempted murder. Klein paid the dude pressing charges $50K to drop the case against Jay, but Klein still took a charge and ended up doing 4 years in prison over the situation. Back in 2007, T.I. was making major waves in the rap game, but he almost got locked up for 30 years on a gun case. According to the cops, T.I. was trying to buy guns from his bodyguard, and what he didn't know is that his bodyguard was working with the cops. The bodyguard tried to buy guns from an undercover fed, so he flipped and started working with the police to beat his own case. T.I. got booked for possession of 3 unregistered machine guns and 2 silencers, and possession of firearms by a felon. They were serious charges, and T.I. was facing 30 years if he got convicted, but he got off easy when he pleaded guilty and only served 10 months. Some people thought the situation was sketchy because T.I. was already a felon and still got off with less than a year in prison. T.I. was beefing with another rapper named Shawty Lo back when the case was happening, and Shawty Lo said that the only way to beat a Fed case like T.I. did is if you talk. There's no evidence that T.I. actually worked with the cops though, and according to him, he wasn't really trying to buy guns. In an interview with Vlad TV, T.I. said he thought his bodyguard was buying legit guns for himself, but the situation went left and T.I. had to plead guilty. Rick Ross never got hit with crazy charges like the drug kingpin he got his name from, but he's still been beating cases his whole career. Back in 2008, Rick Ross got blasted for working as a CEO at a prison. Ross got clowned for the situation, and he got so pressed about it that he sent some goons to put hands on DJ Vlad. Vlad had interviewed Ross and asked him about working in a prison, so Ross sent his homies to catch Vlad at the Ozone Awards in Houston. They broke Vlad's eye socket and left him looking rough, so Vlad hit Ross with a $4 million lawsuit. Rumors were flying that the cops were going to book Ross for the situation too, but he ended up beating the case and only had to pay DJ Vlad $300K. Then in 2015, Ross and his bodyguard got charged with kidnapping and assault. Ross owned a big house in Fayetteville, Georgia, and 2 of his groundskeepers allegedly threw a party at his crib without telling them. When Ross found out what happened, Ross and his bodyguard trapped the groundskeepers inside the guest house and started putting hands on them. Ross allegedly even hit one of the dudes with the back of a gun and was facing some serious time. Some people thought he was going down for sure, but Ross beat the case again and got off with a week in jail and some probation. Beating a case is never easy, but Meek Mill spent 12 years getting locked up for the same charges he caught when he was 18. Before he started popping off in the rap game, Meek was stopped by the police in Philly while he was walking to the corner store. The cops lied and said Meek tried to chase him down with a gun and shoot them, so they put hands on Meek and even ripped one of his braids out while they were beating him up. Meek was convicted and went to prison for 7 months, but getting out didn't mean he was free. The judge hit him with 5 years of probation, and that's why Meek kept going in and out of jail for the next 12 years. In 2012, Meek got pulled over and arrested, but even though the cops didn't charge him with anything, the judge in his case said he violated probation and took away Meek's travel permit. Meek kept going in and out of jail for probation violations. And in 2017, he caught another real charge when he got into a fight with the dude who works at the airport in St. Louis. It's not clear how it went down, but the airport employee allegedly wanted a picture at first, but then it turned into a fight. Meek got hit with an assault charge, and even after he beat it and the charges got dropped, Meek ended up going to prison again for violating his parole. Everyone knew that the judge in Meek's case was bad, but nobody knew that the FBI was about to start investigating her. She was pretty much stalking Meek while he did community service on parole. At one point, she asked Meek to record a Boyz II Men track and give her a shout out, and the judge even tried to get Meek to sign to her friend's record label. And when the feds started looking into the cops who arrested Meek back in the day, they found out they had been lying about more cases and were convicted of theft too. So in 2019, Meek just pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor firearm case, and the rest of the charges were all dropped. It took Meek 12 years to beat the case, but now he's finally free. NBA YoungBoy's been fighting cases since he was a teenager, but in 2018, he got hit with some serious charges for aggravated assault and kidnapping. YoungBoy was caught on camera throwing his girlfriend, Jania Jackson, onto the ground and then dragging her into a hotel room. The case could have put YoungBoy away for a while, but Jania Jackson told the cops she wasn't going to work with them at all. There wasn't much they could do without her testifying and making a statement, so YoungBoy skated on the case by pleading guilty to a misdemeanor and spent a year on probation. Beating that case was huge for YoungBoy, but a year before that, he beat an attempted murder charge too. After Youngboy's cousin Boozilla got killed, Youngboy and his homies slid on the ops and started letting off shots. Boozilla was affiliated with a gang from Baton Rouge called BBG, who had beef with another crew called TBG. Youngboy was once cool with TBG after his homie Lil Herc's older brother G Money brought him around and started teaching Youngboy how to rap. But Youngboy had fallen out with G Money and left TBG because he felt like they weren't supporting his rap career. Youngboy and G Money started dissing each other, and when Boozilla got killed, it took the beef to a new level. Youngboy got hit with 2 attempted murder charges and was facing decades behind bars, but instead, he pleaded guilty to assault with a firearm and got off with a suspended 10-year sentence. Youngboy didn't stay out of trouble though, and in 2020, he got hit with more gun charges when the cops pulled up to where he was shooting a music video. Youngboy fought the case for years and was locked down in the middle of nowhere while it was going down. And while he was on house arrest in Utah, Youngboy got hit with more charges for allegedly running an illegal prescription drug ring. Youngboy and his crew were allegedly calling pharmacies and giving them real people's info so they could get codeine. It's another serious case that could end up going bad for Youngboy, but in 2024, he finally settled his gun case from 2020. Youngboy pleaded guilty and got hit with a 27-month sentence, but the judge gave him credit for time served, and Youngboy's lawyer said he'll probably be out in a year. Youngboy is still facing another gun case and the drug charges in Utah, but it's clear that his legal team is good enough to beat the case. Before 50 Cent dropped some of the biggest hits in the rap game, he was in the streets and moving weight to get his money up. 50 started selling cocaine when he was a teenager, and in 1994, he sold some to an undercover cop. They booked 50 and let him go, but 3 weeks later, they raided his crib and found heroin, crack, and a gun. 50 was facing up to 9 years in prison, but he got off easy and just had to go to boot camp for 6 months. He started rapping when he came home and ended up taking over the industry, but that didn't keep him out of trouble. In 2004, 50 was performing a show when someone in the crowd threw a water bottle at him. 50 got so heated about it that he jumped into the crowd to put hands on whoever hit him with the bottle, and he ended up catching 3 counts of assault and battery. Then in 2023, 50 was performing at the Crypto.com arena, but his microphone wasn't working. He handed the mic off to someone on stage, and then someone brought him a different one. The second mic still wasn't working, so 50 threw it into the crowd and ended up hitting a woman in the face with it. The news broke that 50 might be facing a felony charge over the situation, but he got lucky and never got booked for it. 50 was also facing prison time for kicking his ex, Daphne Joy. He had a kid with her, but apparently the relationship was pretty toxic, and 50 kicked in the door to her apartment and attacked Daphne. 50 could have ended up with 5 years in prison, but instead he beat the case by pleading no contest and only had to do some probation and community service. Besides all the criminal cases, 50's had all kinds of lawsuits. And when he went on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, 50 said he spent over $20 million just on lawyer fees.
I spent $24 million in my career so far. I can't wait till I get rich. Just on lawyers.
Just if anybody.
I spent $24 million in my career on legal fees.
Tupac is one of the biggest legends in rap, but a lot of fans still don't know about the wild cases he beat back in the day. In 1992, Pac performed at an outdoor festival in Marin City, California. After his set, Pac hung around to take photos and sign autographs, and nobody expected what was about to happen. It's not clear how it went down, but some dudes allegedly tried to press Pac and his homies after the show. Tupac spent some time living in Marin City after moving to the West Coast from Baltimore with his family. That's where he started his rap career, but after he got famous, Tupac said some bad things about Marin City in an interview. According to rumors, the dudes he got into it with at the festival showed up to press Pac about the comments he made in the interview. Pac wasn't gonna back down, so a fight broke out and Pac upped his strap. But before he could do anything with it, Pac accidentally dropped the gun on the ground. One of his homies tried to grab it, and when they picked it up, the gun went off and hit a kid who was riding his bike on the playground. The boy tragically died, and Pac's stepbrother, Maurice Harding, got booked for the shooting. The cops traced the bullet back to Pac's gun, but they didn't have enough evidence to convict anybody, so the charges got dropped. Pac beat the case and didn't do any time, but in 1995, he had to pay around $300K to settle the wrongful death lawsuit that the boy's mom opened. Then just a few months later, Pac caught an even crazier case after he shot 2 cops. In October 1993, Pac had a concert at Clark Atlanta University. After the show was over, Pac and his crew drove back to their hotel, and that's when they spotted 2 white dudes beating up a black guy in the middle of the road right in front of the hotel. When Pac saw what was going down, he hopped out of the whip immediately. Everyone else in the crew jumped out and followed him, and that's when one of the white dudes pulled out a gun. Pac upped his own strap, and after the white dude smashed Pac's windshield with a pistol, Pac let off 3 shots and hit both of the white guys. But what Pac didn't know is that the 2 dudes he shot were actually off-duty cops. They were Mark Whitwell and his brother Scott Whitwell, and they had been celebrating with their wives at the same hotel Pac was staying at because Scott's wife had just passed the bar exam. When Mark and Scott Whitwell were leaving the hotel, they almost got hit by someone while they crossed the street, and that's when the fight started. After Pac shot them, he went to his hotel room, but the cops came a few hours later and booked him for aggravated assault. Shooting cops can get you locked up for life, but everyone found out that Mark and Scott Whitwell were both dirty cops. They were drunk that night and were the ones who started the fight, and Mark lied in his statement. And to top it off, it turns out that Mark and Scott were both carrying guns that they had stolen from a police evidence locker. After the judge got all the details, they threw the whole case against Pac out, which probably makes him the only rapper who shot 2 cops and got away with it. Mark Whitwell was also charged with shooting at Tupac's car and making false statements to the police. The judge eventually dropped those charges too, but Mark ended up resigning from the police force 6 months later. Even though the charges were dropped, Mark and Scott never forgot about it and filed lawsuits against Tupac a few years later. Mark ended up settling out of court, and Scott won a $2 million default judgment against Tupac's estate in 1998 after Pac was already dead. Master P started No Limit Records and became a legend in the rap game, but his brother C Murder allegedly kept his feet in the trenches. Back in 1998, C Murder was allegedly involved with a shooting outside of a nightclub in Baton Rouge. C Murder didn't do any time for the shooting, but then in 2001, he let off a shot at another nightclub because the owner wouldn't let him inside with a gun. C Murder's gun jammed after one shot, and that's probably the only reason the owner and bouncer he shot at survived. C Murder ended up pleading no contest to the second shooting and got hit with 10 years in prison. But then the situation got even worse, and he caught a life sentence too. In 2002, C Murder allegedly shot and killed a 16-year-old named Steve Thomas at the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana. Nobody knows what really went down, but the cops wanted to put C Murder away, so they booked him for the shooting and forced people to make statements against him. During the trial, a few of the jurors thought C Murder was innocent, but they voted to convict him anyway because the other jurors were putting pressure on him. After it went down, one of the jurors said, "They literally made this 20-year-old girl so violently ill. She was throwing her guts up. She couldn't function anymore." Even though there wasn't any real evidence against him, C Murder was convicted and got put away for life. One of the witnesses in the case said that the cops threatened him with 10 years in prison if he didn't testify against C Murder. And another witness said that the cops locked him in a hotel room until he agreed to testify. C Murder's lawyers have tried to appeal the charges, but for now, he's still locked up. Chief Keef kicked off the drill wave and changed the entire rap game, but he caused some cases that could have put him in prison for decades. In 2011, the cops booked Keef for making and selling heroin, but instead of officially getting charged, Keef was booked as a delinquent and just had to spend some time on house arrest at his grandma's crib. But then a few months later, Keef got wrapped up in a wild situation and almost got killed by the cops. In December 2011, Keef left his grandma's crib and was carrying a coat over his hands. A cop spotted him and thought it looked sketchy, and when he tried to stop Keef and ask him some questions, Keef flashed a gun at him and ran off. The cops started chasing Keef, but he allegedly turned around and upped his strap at them a few times, and that's when the cops started letting off shots. They tried to shoot Keef while they were running after him, but luckily all the shots missed and nobody got hit. Upping a strap at the cops can get you some serious time, but Keef pretty much skated on the case and just spent a few weeks in juvie and had to go back on house arrest. Going on house arrest turned out to be huge for Keef too. While he was locked down, he recorded the video for I Don't Like, which is what made him famous overnight. And on the track, Keef even brags about getting the heroin charge and raps, "I done got indicted selling all white, but I won't never snitch, none in my life." I Don't Like turned Keef into one of the hottest rappers in the game, but he was still catching cases after he blew up in the industry. Back in 2017, Keef allegedly went to a producer's crib named Ramsey the Great and robbed him at gunpoint. According to Ramsey the Great, Keef jumped him with 5 of his homies and stuck an AK in his face. The cops booked Keef for assault and for snatching Ramsey the Great's Rolex, but eventually, all of the charges got dropped because they didn't have enough evidence against Keef. The Game is one of the most controversial rappers in the industry. He's had some of the wildest beefs, and he's been caught up in a ton of legal situations too. In 2005, The Game was at a mall with some homies in North Carolina wearing a Halloween mask and yelling at random people. The mall security called in the police, but Game wouldn't calm down. His crew allegedly surrounded the cops, and that's when the police started pepper spraying everyone. Game didn't do any time for what happened, but he ended up having to pay the cops who pepper sprayed him $5 million. He put out a video showing the arrest going down, but the cops said it was edited to make them look bad, so a judge made Game hand over a huge bag to him. Game beat another case, but still had to pay out when he put hands on a rapper named 40 Glock back in 2012. Game and 40 Glock had beef because 40 Glock was cool with 50 Cent. They had been sending shots back and forth, and when Game spotted 40 Glock, he started throwing hands and recorded the whole thing. Even though he beat up Fody Glock on camera, Game didn't get charged with anything. Fody Glock sued him for damages though, and Game had to give him over $200K for the beatdown. The Game wasn't afraid to throw hands with anybody, and in 2017, he even punched a cop during a basketball game. The cop was off duty and playing on the opposite team, and after the cop stole the ball from Game and scored, Game fouled him and threw a sucker punch that was caught on camera. Game got ejected, and that's when he threatened to kill the cop he punched. Putting hands on a cop and threatening to kill him is usually serious, but the Game got off easy and just had to go to anger management classes and do some community service. ASAP Rocky has a case hanging over his head for allegedly shooting his old homie ASAP Relly, but this isn't the first time Rocky's been in trouble with the cops. Rocky came up in Harlem and spent some time on Rikers Island back in the day. While he was at Rikers, he was cellmates with another rapper from Brooklyn named Casanova, although Rocky didn't spend too much time locked up for that charge. And after he blew up in the rap game, Rocky still had drama with the police. In 2012, Rocky was in Manhattan when two random people started taking photos of him. It's not clear how everything went down, but a fight broke out and Rocky started throwing punches and trying to take their cameras. The cops booked him for assault and attempted robbery, but Rocky beat the case by pleading guilty and doing 3 days of community service. Then 1 year later, Rocky was performing at a festival in Philly, and a woman in the crowd allegedly tried to hold onto his shirt. Rocky allegedly slapped her in the face, and the news broke that Rocky was going to get hit with another assault case. He had already hit another fan that year when he was at a show in Australia, but Rocky beat both of the cases and didn't do any time. Rocky didn't have any legal drama for a few years, but in 2019, he caught a major case while he was touring in Sweden. A wild video came out showing Rocky and his crew putting hands on some dude in the street. At first, it looked like Rocky and his homies were the ones who sparked the situation, but then more videos started going around that proved Rocky actually tried to stop the fight from going down. That didn't stop the cops in Sweden from charging Rocky with assault though. Rocky got booked in a Swedish jail and missed a bunch of tour dates in Europe, and TMZ said he was being held in shockingly inhumane conditions. A couple of weeks later, Donald Trump got involved with the situation and said he was trying to get the Swedish Prime Minister to let Rocky out of jail. Then a former Prime Minister clapped back and said that politicians shouldn't be jumping into the situation. 3 weeks after he got arrested, Rocky was officially charged with assault. He pleaded not guilty and went to trial. After he testified, the cops let him go home, but Rocky still ended up getting convicted. Rumors were flying that he was going to get sent back to Sweden to go to prison, but luckily the judge decided to give Rocky a suspended sentence and he stayed out of prison. Fabolous was popping off back in 2003, but that same year, he got busted by the cops 3 different times. The biggest case was when he got booked on a gun charge in Brooklyn. Fabolous, his bodyguard, and 3 other dudes all got arrested by a special NYPD unit called the Music Task Force. They went to a club in Brooklyn, and when they realized the spot had a metal detector at the front door, they went back to their van, and Fabolous's bodyguard stashed his gun inside the whip. A security guard saw it happen and called the cops, and that's when they rolled through and arrested everybody. The bodyguard had a license for the gun and proof that it was his, but he still wasn't able to carry it in New York because he didn't have a license for the state. The cops still decided to arrest Fabolous without any evidence against him though, and Fabolous ended up getting the charges dropped and sued the city for $5 million. He didn't have any trouble after that for a few years, but then in 2006, Fabolous got wrapped up in another situation and almost got killed. Fabolous and his homies were eating at Diddy's restaurant in Manhattan, and they got into a fight in the parking lot after dinner. It's not clear how everything went down, but shots started going off, and Fabolous got hit in the leg. His homies put Fabolous in the whip and rushed him back to the hospital, but on the way there, they ran a red light and got pulled over. The police spotted Fabolous bleeding from a gunshot, and when they searched the car, they found 2 guns with the serial number scratched off. Fabolous was facing some serious charges because he already had a history with gun cases, but luckily he beat it and didn't have to spend any time in jail. Fabolous fell off and wasn't in the spotlight for a long time, but in 2018, he was in headlines again for all the wrong reasons. He caught 4 felony charges for beating up his baby mama, Emily Bustamante, and threatening to kill her dad. Fabolous punched Emily hard enough to knock out 2 teeth and threatened her with a pair of scissors too. He was facing 2 decades in prison if he got convicted, but Fabolous got lucky again when he took a plea deal and just had to complete a pre-trial intervention program to make the case go away. Slick Rick dropped one of the greatest rap albums ever back in 1988. He blew up and was taking over the rap game, but then everything fell apart when he shot his own cousin. Slick Rick's mom was managing him back then, and after he started popping off, she knew that he needed security. But instead of getting some professionals to do the job, she hired Rick's cousin Mark Plummer to handle it. It should have been a win for everyone, but nobody knew that Mark Plummer was a stone cold psycho. After Mark started working for Rick started getting robbed all the time. People were breaking into Rick's house, snatching his jewelry, and trying to extort him. Slick Rick realized something was up, and it turned out that his own cousin and security guard was setting him up. Rick fired Mark, and that's when Mark sent goons to put hands on Rick and threatened to kill his whole family. Slick Rick decided to handle the situation himself and started riding around with a bunch of guns. And when he spotted Mark one day, Slick upped his strap and started letting off shots. He hit Mark and an innocent dude on the street, and Rick ended up getting hit with 2 attempted murder charges. But then the situation got even worse for Rick. While he was fighting the attempted murder case, the Immigration and Naturalization Services tried to get him deported. Rick had moved to New York when he was a kid, but was born in London, and the cops wanted to kick him out of the country over the Mark Plummer shooting. Slick Rick got out and didn't get deported, but in 2002, the INS got involved and tried to kick him out again. Slick Rick had performed on a Caribbean cruise ship, and when it came back to Florida, they booked him immediately because he was a foreigner with a felony record. Rick spent another 17 months in jail fighting the case, but finally got out of jail in 2003. He still had the case hanging over his head for years, but in 2008, the governor of New York pardoned him completely for the attempted murder charge, and Slick Rick finally got his US citizenship. The governor knew that Slick Rick wasn't a violent dude. After the shooting, Slick Rick started working with kids to keep him out of the streets. Plus, it was proven that Mark Plummer was a seriously dangerous dude, and Slick Rick was just trying to protect himself. While Slick Rick was fighting the attempted murder case, Mark Plummer ended up getting killed for a way crazier situation. Mark had broken into a crib and was trying to mess with a kid, but the kid's dad caught him in the middle of the situation and shot Mark to death. Jim Jones has been in the rap game for decades, and he's been beating cases the whole time too. Back in 2008, Jim Jones was with his crew at the Louis Vuitton store on 5th Avenue in Manhattan when they ran into Neo and his homies. It's not clear what sparked the situation, but a fight broke out and Jim Jones started throwing hands. Jim Jones started punching Neo's homie Javon Smith, who was the younger brother of Jay-Z's road manager. Nobody took any serious damage, but Jim Jones still ended up getting hit with an assault charge. He pleaded not guilty at first, but there was a chance he'd end up on probation and wouldn't be able to tour if the case didn't go his way in court. So he pleaded guilty and still didn't have to do any time. Then in 2011, the cops spotted Jim Jones driving a Bentley in the bus lane and pulled him over. They ran his info and found out that Jones was driving with a suspended license, and that's when they cuffed him and took him to jail. Jones got off easy and was back in the streets in no time, but then he got caught up in a way crazier situation. In 2012, Jones was at a casino in Connecticut when some random dude came up to start problems. Jones ignored him at first, but then the dude started throwing punches, so Jim Jones fought back. Security jumped in to break up the fight, but Jim Jones wouldn't stop swinging. The cops rushed in to squash the situation, and they still couldn't get him to calm down. There were 5 cops trying to hold him down, but Jones kept struggling, so they whipped out the mace and sprayed Jim Jones in the face. Jim Jones was facing some serious charges like assault on a police officer, but somehow he skated on the case and didn't do any time. Then a year later, Jones got arrested again when the cops caught him speeding through the Bronx and booked him for driving while intoxicated. Jones beat that case too and stayed out of trouble for a while, but in 2018, he caught a serious charge and was facing decades in prison. Jones was riding around Georgia with some homies when the cops spotted them drifting all over the road, and when they tried to pull Jones and his crew over, the driver stepped on the gas and tried to get away. The chase didn't last long though, and when the cops searched the whip, they found a stolen gun, weed, oxycodone, Percocets, and THC oil. Jones told the cops that he had prescriptions for the Oxy and Percs, but they still booked him for receiving stolen property, possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime, narcotics possession, and more. The situation was looking bad for him, but Jones got lucky again when he took a plea deal and only got 2 years of probation. Everything was quiet for a while with Jim Jones, but in May 2024, TMZ leaked a wild video of him throwing hands in the airport. Jim Jones flew to Florida, and another dude on the plane pushed Jones while he was trying to get his luggage. Then another dude started yelling at Jones, and security got called to the gate. Jones just walked off and went to the baggage claim, but the dude who yelled at him followed Jones and started acting like he was gonna throw a punch. Jones didn't react at first, but then the other dude faked another punch, so Jones grabbed him and tossed him down the escalator. The dude started swinging, then the other guy from the plane jumped in and punched Jones too. Jones held it down and fought both of them until security stepped in, and after the cops saw the surveillance footage, they decided not to charge Jones with anything. Dr. Dre is a legend in the rap game, but a lot of fans don't know how wild he was back in the day. In 1991, Dre and the rest of NWA were beefing with Ice Cube after he left the crew and went solo. There was a hip-hop show at the time called Pump It Up, and a woman named Dee Barnes was the main interviewer for it. She interviewed NWA and Ice Cube, and put the interviews together for an episode of Pump It Up. Ice Cube and NWA had been sending crazy shots at each other already, and Dre got heated when he saw the episode of Pump It Up. And when he ran into Dee Barnes at a record release party, Dre put hands on her while his security guard stopped anyone from saving Dee Barnes. Dre smashed Dee Barnes into a wall. then tried to throw her down some stairs and started kicking her in the ribs. D got up and ran into a bathroom, but Dre rushed her down and started punching her in the back of the head. D Barnes ended up suing Dre for over $22 million. Dre got off easy and just had 2 years of probation and some community service, plus a $2,500 fine. And what makes it even crazier is how he admitted to the whole thing. After it went down, Dre said, "Somebody fucks with me, I'm gonna fuck with them. I just did it, you know? Ain't nothing you can do now by talking about it. Besides, it ain't no big thing. I just threw her through a door." Eminem even joked about it on the track Guilty Conscience and rapped, "That's what I did. Be smart. Don't be a retard. You gonna take advice from somebody who slapped D Barnes?" In the 90s, Dre was putting hands on anybody he had a problem with. He allegedly punched a producer named Damon Thomas and broke his jaw. In the same year he beat up D Barnes, Dre even hit a cop in New Orleans during a fight at a hotel. Dre also dated Michelle back in the day and put hands on her. Dre allegedly hit her so hard that she had to have plastic surgery. Dre didn't do any time for that, but it wasn't the last time he allegedly put hands on a woman. Terry B, a singer and rapper who was signed to Ruthless Records, claimed that Dre once assaulted her at a Grammys after party. Terry had made a diss track about Dre called Ruthless Bitch, and when Dre saw her at the party, he punched her twice in the face. A woman named Lisa Johnson, who's the mother of Dre's daughter LaTanya, said that Dre beat her up many times, including while she was pregnant. It got so bad, Lisa had to get a restraining order against Dre. Dre ended up getting married to a woman named Nicole Young, and before they got divorced, Dre allegedly punched her in the face and put a gun to her head. Dre never got booked for the situation, but he ended up having to pay Nicole Young a 9-figure settlement after the divorce was final. Nelly blew up with a bunch of mainstream hits, and a lot of his fans didn't know about the cases he was catching. In 2012, his tour bus got pulled over in Texas, and when the cops raided it, they found weed, heroin, and a loaded gun inside. Nelly was put in cuffs, but one of his homies took the fall for everything, and Nelly got released and didn't get charged. That case was easy to beat, but a few years later, he got wrapped up in something more serious. In 2015, Nelly's tour bus got raided again, and the cops found drugs, a bunch of plastic bags, and 3 guns, including a gold-plated 50 caliber Desert Eagle. Nelly got hit with felony drug charges because the cops thought he was moving meth, but later they tested the drugs, and it turned out it wasn't really meth. That gave Nelly a huge break in the case, and he ended up pleading guilty to a couple misdemeanors and only served a year of probation. He still didn't stay out of trouble though, and in 2017, Nelly got booked for allegedly raping a woman on his tour bus. The cops thought they had enough evidence to convict him, but the woman decided not to press charges. 2 other women came out and accused Nelly of assaulting them too, but he settled everything out of court and never did any time on those cases either. Offset was already locked up when the Migos popped off in 2013. He got out of jail and started touring with Quavo and Takeoff, but in 2015, he caught a major case while they were performing in Georgia. The Migos had a show at Georgia Southern University, but the cops showed up in the middle of the set and arrested all of them and their crew. While the Migos were on stage, the cops had been searching their whips and found weed and a bunch of guns, so they booked everyone in the crew. Offset's situation got even worse while he was locked up. He got hit with another charge for inciting a riot in the jail after he allegedly put hands on someone. A judge denied Offset's bond after the riot, so he started yelling in the courtroom, and the cops had to drag him back to jail. Offset was facing decades in prison for the gun and gang charges he got booked for, but he beat all the serious charges by taking an Alford plea for starting the riot inside jail. After Offset came home, the Migos kept up the momentum and took over the industry. But in 2018, Offset got wrapped up in another case that almost ended his whole career. He got busted in 2018 after the cops pulled him over for making an illegal lane switch, and when they searched his whip, they found guns inside. Offset was already a felon, so getting convicted on a gun charge could have sent him away for a long time. But a few months later, the news broke that the case had been dropped. Beating the case was a huge win, but it looked like Offset was actually caught up in something way bigger. Court documents prove that the feds were the ones who ordered the original traffic stop, and the only reason that Offset's case got dropped is because they were worried that info would leak about a much larger investigation. It's not clear if Offset was actually involved with that situation though, and the feds never booked him for anything. A few rappers have beat murder cases, but Travis Scott almost got charged for 10 people getting killed at his festival. In 2021, Travis Scott had his Astroworld Festival in Houston, and the situation was out of control from the jump. Before he even started performing, people were already passing out and getting carried off on stretchers. And when Travis actually hit the stage, people started dying. Fans were getting crushed and trampled to death, and people were screaming for the show to stop. But Travis kept on hyping the crowd up even when ambulances were driving through and pulling bodies out. After it went down, Travis Scott was facing charges for everybody who died. But in 2023, the news broke that the cops aren't going to book him on anything. That wasn't the only time he had issues at a show though. Back in 2015 at Lollapalooza, Travis told his fans to rush the stage. A lot of people got hurt, and Travis got hit with disorderly conduct charges for what went down. Then a few months later, Travis Scott told his fans to fuck up a dude who had taken the shoe in the middle of a show.
You tried to take my shoe? You want to be a thief? Fuck him up! Fuck him up! Fuck him up!
Everyone knew how crazy Travis Scott's shows were, and in 2017, he got booked again for telling the crowd at a show in Arkansas to rush the stage. The same year, Travis was performing in NYC when a fan fell from a balcony and ended up paralyzed. Travis was encouraging fans to jump and said the crowd on the ground floor would catch them. A 23-year-old fan named Kyle Green claims he was then pushed from the third-story balcony and broke both his legs. Kyle was left paralyzed and ended up suing the venue and Travis for inciting chaos that caused his injuries. After the Astroworld situation, Travis didn't have any drama for a while, but in 2023, he got arrested at another show for attacking the sound guy. According to reports, the sound guy asked Travis to turn the music down because it was too loud for the venue. So Travis Scott punched him in the head and smashed up some sound equipment. The cops put a warrant out for his arrest, but they ended up dropping the charges. Then in June 2024, Travis was arrested for trespassing in Miami Beach. He got out of jail a few hours after the cops booked him. In that same day, he made money off of the situation when he put out new merch with his mugshot on it. A couple of months later, Travis Scott was in Paris for the Olympics and ended up getting arrested again. He had been getting followed around by fans everywhere, and apparently Travis was heated at his bodyguard for not keeping them away. That's what sparked a fight in the lobby of the hotel where Travis was staying. He allegedly started swinging on his bodyguard and smashing faces. A security guard at the hotel tried to break it up, so Travis Scott hit him too. Travis got booked in Paris, but they let him out the next day and decided not to press any charges. A lot of rappers have beat cases, but it's hard to find anyone who beat more than DaBaby. And before he popped off in the mainstream and started working with some of the biggest artists in the game, DaBaby shot and killed a dude in Walmart while he was shopping. Back in 2018, DaBaby ran into a dude named Jalen Craig and his homie Henry Douglas inside a Walmart in North Carolina. According to Henry Douglas, Jalen Craig and him spotted DaBaby and were looking at him. And that's when DaBaby asked them, "Do you know me?" Henry Douglas just said, "I thought that was you," and walked away from the situation. But that's not where it ended. Henry Douglas and Jalen Craig walked off, but they ended up running into DaBaby again, and DaBaby wanted to take it outside and fight them. Henry Douglas told DaBaby that he'd see him outside, but then DaBaby rushed him and started throwing hands. While DaBaby and Henry Douglas were fighting, Jalen Craig allegedly reached for his waistband and tried to break up the fight. That's when someone else yelled, "He's got a gun," and DaBaby upped his own strap and killed Jalen Craig on the spot. After it went down, DaBaby got hit with a murder charge, but he claimed it was self-defense and skated on the case. DaBaby still got charged with a misdemeanor for carrying a concealed weapon, but that was nothing compared to a murder case. A lot of people don't think DaBaby should have beat the case because he allegedly started the fight. Plus, he even brags about it on the track Rockstar and rapped, "PTSD, I'm always waking up in cold sweats like I got the flu. My daughter a G, she saw me kill a nigga in front of her before the age of 2, and I'll kill another nigga too, before I let another nigga do something to you." That wasn't the only wild case that he beat though. Back in 2020, DaBaby and his homies allegedly jumped a promoter named Kenneth Carey. Kenneth Carey was hosting a party for another rapper named Stunna4 Vegas and was supposed to pay DaBaby $30K to perform at the event. But Kenneth Carey only brought DaBaby $20K and said he'd pay the rest later. And that's when DaBaby and his homies put hands on Kenneth Carey and ran off with the $20K. DaBaby caught a battery charge over the situation, but he skated on the case because one of the witnesses wouldn't work with the police. Kenneth Carey still tried to get $6 million out of DaBaby in a lawsuit, but DaBaby won that case too and didn't have to pay anything. And what's really wild about the situation is that the whole thing was caught on camera and DaBaby still beat it. That wasn't the only assault case DaBaby beat. Back in 2022, DaBaby ran into Brandon Bills at a bowling alley and put hands on him. DaBaby had been in a wild, toxic relationship with Brandon Bills' sister, DaniLeigh. And after they broke up, Brandon Bills started saying he wanted to throw hands with DaBaby. After DaBaby and his crew jumped Brandon Bills, the cops were thinking about charging DaBaby with assault with a deadly weapon. But the case got dropped because Brandon Bills didn't want to press charges. Brandon Bills didn't help send DaBaby to jail, but he's still trying to get money out of him. He opened up a $4 million lawsuit against DaBaby, so DaBaby clapped back on the track Lawsuit on a Wednesday and rapped, "He was gangster before, now you suing me, huh? That's tough shit. He don't want to do it no more. Out the spot, ain't want nothing to do with the whore. Before I walk out the house, tuck my toolie before. Talking about what they gonna do when they see me. The fuck you think Baby still shoot people for?" In the same year that he beat up Brandon Bills, DaBaby ended up shooting another dude. DaBaby was chilling at his crib in North Carolina when someone hopped his fence and tried to get inside the house. DaBaby already had his strap ready, and he shot the dude in the leg before he called the police. Defending your crib is one thing, but DaBaby even clowned the dude after it went down and said, "I chose not to take a nigga life the other day and it felt great, but he didn't deserve to go. I stepped righteously." DaBaby didn't have any charges filed against him because the dude was on his property, and he ended up beating another gun case that same year. DaBaby was booked in LA in January 2021 after a security guard at the mall called the cops on him. DaBaby and his homies left the mall before the cops got there, but they ended up catching him on Rodeo Drive and pulled him over. They found a gun inside his whip, but everybody said it wasn't theirs. DaBaby got booked for the strap, but since nobody was talking to the cops, the whole case got thrown out because there wasn't enough evidence. DaBaby was also facing prison time for punching an old man in the face and knocking his tooth out. Back in 2020, DaBaby rented out a mansion in LA to shoot a video, but he wasn't supposed to have more than 12 people there. DaBaby rode up with over 40 people to shoot the video though, and that's when the owner of the mansion stepped in and tried to shut everything down. The owner is a 64-year-old dude named Gary Pager, and when he showed up to kick everyone out, DaBaby's crew pushed him to the ground. Pager went inside the mansion, and that's when DaBaby allegedly followed him and told him not to call the cops. Apparently the threat wasn't enough though, so DaBaby swung on Pager and knocked his tooth out. DaBaby started getting dragged on social media for hitting an old man, so DaBaby clapped back and posted a video of Pager screaming racial slurs. DaBaby still got hit with a felony assault case and was facing some serious time, but he beat the case by taking another plea deal and only got hit with a year of probation. Chris Brown used to have a perfect reputation, but that all changed when he beat up Rihanna in 2009. They were in Brown's whip when it went down, and the whole situation blew up because of a woman that Brown used to hook up with. Rihanna saw texts from the woman on Brown's phone and started yelling at him. Then Brown started punching and kicking Rihanna so much that he sent her to the hospital. It was a brutal attack that made headlines everywhere, and everyone thought Chris Brown was gonna get locked up for sure. He got hit with a felony assault charge and was facing serious time, but he beat the case by taking a plea deal and just doing a few years of probation and community service. After he put hands on Rihanna, Chris Brown started fighting people all the time. In 2012, Drake and Chris Brown's crews got into a fight at a nightclub and started throwing bottles. A San Antonio Spurs player named Tony Parker had to have surgery to get glass removed from his eye, but Brown didn't get booked for the situation. Then a few months later, Brown allegedly punched Frank Ocean because Frank Ocean took a parking spot at the recording studio that Brown went to. Brown was facing another battery case, but he beat it again because Frank Ocean decided not to press charges. Then later that same year, Brown punched a fan in the face and broke his nose. The dude was with two women in Washington, D.C., and the girls wanted to take a photo with Brown. Brown let the women take a photo with him, but when the dude tried to get into the picture too, Brown and his bodyguard started punching them. Brown got hit with another felony assault case, but then it got dropped to a misdemeanor, and Brown didn't spend any time in jail for it. He stayed out of trouble for a couple of years, but then Brown caught another serious case. Back in 2012, Chris Brown hired a dude named Mike G to help him get his fans back after the Rihanna assault. It's not clear what exactly went down, but Chris Brown allegedly locked Mike G in a room and punched him in the face and neck. Mike G sued him for assault, false imprisonment, and battery, and rumors were going around that the police wanted to investigate the case too. But then in 2019, news broke that Brown had settled with Mike G out of court, and the cops weren't picking up the case either. But the same year Mike G hit him with a lawsuit, Brown allegedly got into a standoff with the cops after he upped the strap at a woman in his crib. According to the woman, she was in Brown's house and was looking at a diamond necklace laying on the counter. Then Chris Brown came out and pointed a gun in her face. She ran out of the house and hid behind the car, and that's when the cops got involved. Reports came out that a SWAT team was in a standoff with Brown because he wouldn't let them into the crib, but it turned out that the whole story was basically cap. Chris Brown let the cops into his crib when they showed up with a search warrant, and the woman lied about everything. After he beat the case, Chris Brown sued her for defamation, and during the trial they found text messages where the woman told her friend that she was gonna set him up and call the cops and say that he tried to shoot. YG came up repping the Power Rules in Compton and got active at a young age, and after he popped off in the rap game, he still kept his ties to the streets. Back in 2018, YG got hit with a felony robbery charge after he allegedly snatched a chain from a fan in Las Vegas. The fan allegedly asked YG for a photo, but YG yelled at him to get away and then told his crew, "Get him." YG's homies allegedly jumped the dude and snatched his chain, so the dude hit YG with a $250K lawsuit. YG ended up settling the lawsuit out of court, and apparently the fan was happy with how it went because he stopped working with the cops for the criminal charges. The fan's testimony was the only evidence they had against YG, so the prosecutors decided to just drop the whole thing. Snatching the chain is one thing, but a year later, YG got wrapped up in a wild shootout with the cops that turned deadly. In 2019, 4 dudes in a bulletproof Cadillac SUV got into a chase with the police in Compton. The cops tried to pull them over for reckless driving, but the driver slammed on the gas and somebody else inside the whip stuck an assault rifle out of the window and started letting off shots at the cops. The shooter took out a cop car, but then 2 more caught up and started shooting back. It turned into a full-on shootout, and an innocent dude riding his bike down the street got caught in the middle and ended up getting shot to death. The cops sent in the helicopter to keep track of the shooters, but the shooters even tried to take the helicopter out too. Eventually, they stopped the whip and ran off on foot, and that's when the cops ran the plates and found out that the car was registered under YG's name. After the news broke, YG hopped on Twitter and said he was in the studio when the shooting went down and didn't have anything to do with it. But since the Cadillac was under YG's name, the cops searched his crib to look for evidence. They didn't find anything against him in that case, but that wasn't the only time the cops raided his house. A couple of years later, the cops showed up at YG's front door at 4 in the morning and even had a helicopter hovering over the crib. YG opened the door and had a bunch of guns pointed at him. Then the cops ran inside and allegedly pointed guns in his kids' faces too. They booked YG on robbery charges, but nobody knew what was going on. The cops didn't release any details about the case, but rumors said that YG was facing decades over the situation. But then in 2022, the charges got dropped out of nowhere because the district attorney said there wasn't enough evidence to convict YG. They said he was at the scene when the robbery went down, but they couldn't prove that YG was actually involved with it. Soulja Boy has probably been clowned more than any other rapper in the game, but he's had to beat some serious cases too. In 2009, Soulja was shooting a music video in an abandoned house without a permit. The cops rode up to the scene to stop it, and Soulja Boy ran off before they could talk to him. The cops hung around and talked to some people there who didn't run away, and when Soulja Boy came back to get his whip, they booked him on an obstruction charge. Then in 2011, Soulja and his homies got pulled over in Georgia, and the cops found 3 guns, 5 ounces of weed, and over $40K in cash. All of them got hit with felony charges for drug distribution and guns. But Soulja beat that case too and didn't do any time for it. A couple of years later, Soulja Boy got pulled over again, and the cops found another gun in his whip. His manager tried to say that Soulja's neighbor stashed the gun there for some reason, but Soulja got convicted. It looked like he was gonna get locked up, but he got off easy again and just spent a couple years on probation. Rumors say that Soulja couldn't afford to hire security anymore after his career fell off, and that's why he always had guns on him. Then in 2016, Soulja allegedly sent death threats at a dude named Skrill Drilly, so the cops raided Soulja's crib and found 2 guns. Soulja wasn't supposed to have any guns, but the situation got even worse for him because it turned out that one of the straps had been stolen from a police car. Soulja got hit with more gun charges and was facing 4 years in prison, but somehow he got the charges dropped to a misdemeanor and didn't get locked up. That wasn't the only drama Soulja allegedly had with guns though. Back in 2008, some dudes broke into his house, and Soulja Boy told Vlad TV that he grabbed his gun and started busting at them. Soulja said he hit one of the dudes and he fell to the ground while his homies ran off. Then Soulja walked up and took the dude's mask off and shot him again. Droop, the dude Soulja Boy allegedly shot, also did an interview with Vlad and claimed that a lot of his story was cap. Droop claims that Soulja Boy had stolen the famous Soulja Boy Tell 'Em dance from him and his homies, so they went to his house to confront him about it. They got into an argument and Droop slapped Soulja Boy multiple times, which is when Soulja Boy pulled out a gun and shot him 5 times and ran off. Droop even showed off the bullet wounds in the interview, so he admits that Soulja did shoot him, but denies that they broke in and said they never intended to rob him. Soulja Boy is known for being the biggest liar in the rap game, but nobody knew how different the real story was until the paperwork came out in 2023. According to the statement he gave the police after the robbery went down, Soulja Boy said he cut all the lights off and hid with his eyes closed. Another part of the paperwork allegedly says that Soulja Boy let off a few shots, but the robbers took his gun and ran out of the crib. Nobody knows how it really went down, but the only thing that's clear is that Soulja Boy was definitely capping when he told Vlad TV about the situation. Before French Montana blew up in the rap game, he was allegedly wrapped up in some serious street politics in the Bronx. French Montana was allegedly moving weight to help his mom and siblings out, and rumors say that's why he got shot in the head. In 2003, French Montana was leaving a recording studio in the Bronx when 2 dudes ran up on him and tried to rob him. Montana fought back, and that's when one of them upped his strap and shot French Montana in the back of the head. And while Montana was fighting the dude who shot him, the other dude tried to shoot Montana too, but he hit his own homie instead and killed him. After it went down, Montana was rushed to the hospital and the cops booked him for murder. He was facing life in prison, but then the cops found out that he didn't actually shoot anybody. According to rumors, the whole thing was over a major drug deal that French Montana was involved in, and he said that his own homie set him up to get robbed. French Montana survived and beat the case too, but in 2013, somebody else tried to take him out. French Montana had a show in Philadelphia, and after it ended, he hopped in his tour bus and headed to his hotel. A bunch of fans were hanging around the hotel when French Montana got there, and when he tried to leave the bus, somebody pulled through and started letting off shots. French Montana didn't get hit, but a dude named Jawan King got hit in the stomach and tragically died, and another fan got hit in the shoulder. It's not clear if the shooter was trying to take French Montana out, but after it went down, he hopped on Twitter and said he wasn't involved with the situation. Blueface went viral for being one of the wildest dudes in the rap game, and in 2018, he almost killed a dude who tried to rob him at a gas station. It's not clear how it went down, but Blueface and his crew were at a gas station in California when someone allegedly tried to rob him. After the other dude got in his whip and drove off, Blueface and his homies chased him down, and Blueface started letting off shots on the highway. Blueface didn't hit anyone, but he crashed his whip on the highway, and that's how the cops caught him so fast. He was facing some serious charges from the jump, but they got reduced to just a misdemeanor gun possession charge. Then just a few months later, Blueface caught a felony gun case too. He was in LA with some homies when the cops walked up and tried to talk to him. Blueface and their crew tossed their guns and ran off, but it didn't take long for the cops to track him down and arrest him at his crib. Catching more cases didn't slow Blueface down though, and in 2022, he got booked for attempted murder. Blueface was at a club in Las Vegas, and some dude came up to him and made a joke about Blueface speaking with some females in a cheap vehicle. Blueface's crew jumped the dude, and when he tried to get away in his truck, Blueface upped his strap and let off 2 shots. Blueface got booked for attempted murder, but he beat the case by pleading guilty and getting off for probation. He might have beat the charges, but Blueface still took a huge loss because the judge made him pay the club $13 million because they lost their license after the shooting. Blueface beat a lot of cases without going to prison, but in 2024, he got sentenced to 4 years for violating his probation. Rich the Kid went viral for running away from Lil Uzi Vert when Uzi tried to fight him, but his ex-wife said he wasn't afraid of putting hands on her. In 2016, Rich the Kid's ex-wife Lady Luscious said that Rich beat her and was cheating on her with Blac Chyna and India Love. Rich denied it and said he would never hit a woman, but a couple years later, the case got even more serious. According to legal documents, Rich the Kid beat Lady Luscious so many times that the cops were always coming to the house, and he allegedly forced Lady Luscious to have at least 3 abortions that she didn't want to get. Rich didn't face any jail time for beating his ex, but in 2021, he got booked on a gun case for trying to bring a strap through the airport. While he was going through security at LAX, TSA found a gun in Rich's carry-on bag and booked him immediately. Cardi B's relationship with Offset made headlines for years, but it also got her wrapped up in a wild case back in 2018. The Migos performed at the Angel Strip Club in New York, and Offset allegedly hooked up with one of the bartenders after the show. When Cardi B found out about the situation, she sent her homegirls into the club to put hands on the bartender. Cardi's crew punched the bartender and hit her with an ashtray, but the situation didn't end there. A couple weeks later, Cardi and her homegirls allegedly went back to the club and started throwing bottles and chairs at the bartender and her sister. Cardi got arrested for misdemeanor reckless endangerment and assault, and the DA even offered a plea deal that would keep Cardi out of jail. But instead of just taking the plea deal and moving on, Cardi B turned it down and made the situation way worse. After she turned down the deal, Cardi got hit with 2 felony charges and was facing some real jail time. She fought the case for 3 more years though, and in 2022, she decided to plead guilty and got the felony charges dropped and only had to do a couple weeks of community service. 21 Savage came up in the streets and even got into a shootout with the ops. But the biggest case he caught happened after he blew up in the rap game and was already out of the trenches. In 2019, the feds pulled Savage over and tried to kick him out of the country. 21 was born in the UK, but moved to America when he was a kid. He came to the US when he was 7, but left when he was 12 to go back to the UK for his uncle's funeral in 2005. His visa expired in 2006, but 21 said he didn't even know what a visa was because he basically spent his whole life in America. 21 was arrested after police were targeting his cousin Young Nudy on aggravated assault and gang charges. 21 was in the car when they were both pulled over by police and taken into custody for questioning. While they were being interrogated, the cops realized that 21 was living in the country illegally and he was arrested by ICE. Everyone was shocked when the news broke that 21 was actually from the UK, and it looked like he might be kicked out of America for life. 21 was fighting the case for years, and in 2022, the situation got even worse. When 21 got arrested in 2019, the cops found codeine and a gun in his whip, but they didn't even charge him for it until 2022. 21 was facing prison time on top of getting deported, but it looks like he finally caught a break in the case. His immigration case got pushed back after 21 caught the criminal charges, but in 2023, Drake dropped the track 8 AM in Charlotte and rapped, "Hoes waiting on the sanction in the lobby, that boy a lobbyist. Savage got a green card, straight out of the consulate. Where I go, you go. Brother, where you go, Slavian." Then 21 Savage confirmed the news and said that he was officially a lawful permanent resident in America.